Welcome, welcome. Today we're looking at the master textbook skill, how to read your textbook using the SQ4R method. It's a really useful approach. It helps you to get the information in and hold it in instead of, reading something and then 5 minutes later not remembering what you read. So this will help you in your college effort for learning and studying and mastering those steps and doing well. Why might you want to improve your reading skills? That's the question. Why might you want to? So keep that question in mind as we move forward. So the SQ4R method. It's like reading like a detective on a mission. It's not just scanning words. It's a real powerful toolkit. The initial stands for survey, question, read, record, recite, review. Each step builds your ability to recall that information on those steps when you need it. So it helps you stick that into a long-term memory, right? It helps you make it stick. It's really like an active treasure hunt for knowledge. So if you think about when you go to the movies or before you go to a movie, there's usually a trailer, and that trailer kind of gets you into the spirit of the movie and makes you want to watch the movie. Same way with SQ4R. The survey step is like the trailer. You're just going to scan through the headings, the topic headings, and items under the pictures, just the main kinds of things the first time. And it's really useful to scan maybe 2, maybe even 3 times, because that really gets your brain wired for knowing what's going to be coming next. When I do it, I like to first survey just the major headings and then read the questions at the back of the chapter that are going to be what the main points of the chapter are going to cover, or maybe the section, if your textbook is broken up into smaller sections like some psychology textbook does. And then I'll go back and I'll read, again, the topic, the main heading, but I'll also read the topic sentences for each paragraph under it, just to get another idea. Just to scan through one more time. Now I'm really starting to get an idea of things I'm going to be learning from that chapter. Then I'll read the summary at the end really well. And I'll make sure to note if there's any vocabulary words or anything that's in the back of the chapter. Pay attention as I'm moving through for those. So when you do that, it's like if you're going to go see someplace and you've not been there before, you usually pull up a map, check it out. This is like that GPS, right? It's giving you the preview, the trailer, so to speak, of where you're headed. And now you've got a roadmap to navigate your way through all the things that are coming. It's going to take a few minutes, but it dramatically improves comprehension. Develop questions. What am I going to learn from this section, right? So you can actually turn the heading into a specific question. So for instance, as it shows here, the functions of the spinal cord becomes, what are the spinal cord's main functions and how do they work? That's how you turn this into questions. And you can start to develop questions in your mind now that you've surveyed it a couple of times. How can I connect this to information I already know? I'm really curious about whatever it is you're curious about, right? So you can enhance your ability to retain the information by generating these questions, which then raise your level of attention for what you're doing. And the first R, read, right? And we don't want to try and read the whole thing. That's a lot of information to take in. So we break it down into bite-sized chunks. During those breaking downs into bite-sized chunks, we're going to stop every little bit along the way and make sure we've read it accurate, right? And because you've already got some questions in mind while you're reading, you're searching for answers to these questions that you already created. Engage with the text like you're solving a puzzle. You can highlight, and sometimes highlighting is helpful. Sometimes we highlight so much that it's a little overboard, but it's useful to highlight key points while you're reading. In addition to that, you want to record those key points. So you have a separate little notebook, keep your notes in, nice to write it out in longhand, and that helps you to retain the information, especially when you put it in your own words. Forces you to make those linkages and connections so your brain's going to have to develop those connections that you need to have. Remember, neurons that fire together wire together. You want them wired together tightly so that when you get to the test, you'll be able to recall that information more quickly. You can write in the margins. You can keep a separate study notebook. Take it. Make sure you record your notes as you're going along. Some people are really effective at creating mind maps, and that's a very useful tool for helping you to go back and study later. So while you're recording your notes, it gives you a nice structured way to be able to come back to later to study from when you're really preparing for the test. And actually, you're going to be reviewing regularly anyway. So it's nice to have a good record of reading. And then we talked about it before. One of the main tools for learning and making sure it sticks is reciting. So you're reading a small portion, you record a little bit from that portion, close your book for a minute, take a deep breath, exhale, and recite from memory those things that you recall reading in that small portion, right? And then after you get to the end, again, if you're teaching somebody else the material, that's the best way for it to start sinking in, because that's when your brain really, really makes those connections with the things you already know and make it easier to access that information. Recall, this reciting activates that retrieval practice, and again, it's one of the best techniques for long-term retention. Step 6. After that first, all you have to do a lot of for that information. We have a good draft material. Comes around, you know, here it is. Okay? Each survey time and for uh, like our core method, and we hope that you become a super reader. Reading superpower takes you to those next levels and you earn the scores you want to earn so that you can get the GPA you need to get into your future position. It's a really useful thing to develop now because you're always going to be learning. We recommend lifelong learning for a reason because things keep changing and you're going to have to be able to learn at speed to keep up with all the changes. If you invest that time now, you'll save yourself later. Because, when you try to cram the night before, you don't get enough sleep. Your brain doesn't have a chance to consolidate that information. It's hard to remember it on the test the next day. So invest the time now, and you'll be much, much better off in the future. Hopefully you're ready to become a reading detective. How willing are you to think? How ready are you to try this new type of reading strategy? On a scale from 1 to 10, are you ready to put SQ4R into practice? Think about your answer. If you answered 5, why didn't you pick a lower number? Why didn't you pick 4? Number 1. Give yourself some reasons why this technique is really going to be beneficial for you in the future. All right. Go forth and read well. Thanks.